Hi everyone, Peter here once again. Welcome back to Thailand Bound. It's a Saturday morning. That can only mean one thing. It's time for some more viewers' stories. Okay, this week I've got 4 really good stories for you. One's very, very short. I particularly like the last one. I find it quite humorous towards the end. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should, but it's a good story anyway. Before I get into the stories this week, I'd like to put out a little bit of a call out, a shout out. I had a Western woman. I don't know which country she's from, whether she's Australian, English, American, whatever. But she actually left a comment on my one of my videos, and she said, look, I enjoy the channel, and you know, I know guys who go out to Thailand have a good time, but are you aware that women who go out there with expat husbands, in other words, a man and a woman, the guy gets a job in Bangkok, for instance, they go out, she said, do you know a lot of them, they suffer from depression, loneliness, and they get very, very jealous of Thai girls. And she actually went on to say that within her group of 14 Western women, she and her husband were the only couple who remained married. The rest had got divorced. You know, guys played about out there. So the reason for telling you this is, if there's any ladies who have experience of this while working in Thailand with husbands, or you know of somebody, can you send me a story? Let me know what happened. I'll keep you anonymous, and if you don't mind not being anonymous, perhaps I can get you on the channel and interview you. I'm starting to do more and more interviews now. That would be very, very interesting. It'd be nice to get the point of view from a Western woman, what she has to go through if she's married and she's living in a place like Thailand. Okay?
สวัสดีค่ะ
Okay, without further ado, let's get straight into this first story. And as I say, I've got 4 pretty good stories this week. So here we go with the first one. My name is Jim, and I'm a 38-year-old Swedish guy. This is my story from my holiday in Thailand. My story begins in 2018 when, after getting fed up with work and life in Sweden in general, I quit my job and had the opportunity to not work for a few years. I started travelling around Europe, going on short trips here and there. It was fun, but Europe is expensive, so I thought, why not go to Thailand instead and stay there for the winter? So I did. I was 35 at the time, and it might be relevant to the story that I wasn't an old man. I was in good shape, and I literally had a 6-pack as I loved going to the gym. This wasn't my first time in Thailand. I had been there once before, but it was 10 years earlier and with my girlfriend. We only spent 2 weeks on Phuket, so I hadn't really seen anything. I arrived in Bangkok in September of 2018. I was filled with excitement, but really didn't know what to expect. Like many others, I had read up a bit on the internet, but I had no idea what was ahead of me. The first 4 nights I had booked a hotel in Khao San Road. I had read a lot about Khao San Road and wanted to experience the area. It was pretty awesome. I was partying every night and meeting with girls at bars and clubs, not only in Khao San Road, but around Sukhumvit, Soi 11 as well. After 4 nights in Thailand, I had been on dates with as many girls as I would have done in a normal year in Sweden. None had asked me for money, so I assumed they were all regular Thai girls just out for some fun. I then headed off to Pattaya. I had booked a month there in an Airbnb. I guess I don't have to go into too many details, but I had an amazing time in Pattaya. I met up with more girls than I could dream of. Still, none had asked me for any money, and I was getting so much attention everywhere. It felt genuine, and I was on top of the world. I don't like to brag, but I was quite young for Pattaya from what I could see, and being in great shape, maybe many of the girls just wanted a change from the regular guys that they see. I am certain that most of the girls I met with were working girls. After a month in Pattaya, I headed off to Patong. My plan was to stay there for a few months, but it quickly got boring. It was difficult to meet people to hang out with there, friends I mean. Everyone worked in some bar or club. I stayed a month and then headed back to Bangkok. A friend I met on my first weekend in Khao San Road lived in Bangkok. It's here that my story really begins. I met a girl called Kanda. I had only stayed in Bangkok for about 2 weeks when me and some friends went to a club. I have hazy memories of that night as I was quite drunk. I had a new date lined up with this girl Kanda that I had met in the club. We started texting each other and eventually met up for some drinks the next day. Kanda was studying at university. According to her, Her family owned a farm and other businesses in the south, and they were apparently quite well off. I never questioned what she told me and accepted it all as legit. Kanda was really hot and she was in even better shape than me, hitting the gym 5 times a week. As many probably know, things can move extremely quick with Thai girls, and so this did. Before I knew it, we are meeting more or less every day and staying at my condo and going on short trips together. Basically, we did everything together. We had planned to go to the Philippines, and we were also even planning on a trip to Sweden for a visit. I was really happy. I thought that this was it. Damn, how could I have been so lucky to meet this stunner, I thought to myself. Things continued, and then one day Kanda said she was going on a trip to Japan in the beginning of January. She said she had friends there that she had met once when they were travelling to Thailand, and she went to Japan 2 times a year to meet them. It sounded cool to me. I didn't think anything more of it. The day arrives for Kanda's trip to Japan. I follow her to the airport and I kissed her goodbye. Everything seemed great. I knew what time she would arrive and I was waiting for her to text me. I had to wait a long time, several hours after she had landed. Her texts were so short, they were just like yes, no, okay, haha, etc. And it was always hours between them. This was strange as she had never acted like this before. After a few days of this, I was getting very suspicious, but I couldn't do much about it. Then she posted a photo on Instagram and geotagged it. So I clicked the location and I found a guy that had posted the exact same photo at the exact same time. I could see that she followed him on Instagram, but there were no photos of them together. He had his name on his profile, so I went on Facebook and I found him. And what do I see? A post saying he is now engaged with Kanda from Thailand, and there he is with her in numerous photos. Looking through his profile, I could see they had been engaged for 2 years. My world had just crumbled. I confronted her right away and asked her why she had lied to me about her trip to Japan. This time she replied instantly. She said she hadn't lied and didn't know what I was talking about. Then I sent her a screenshot of that guy's profile and she replied, sorry, but nothing else. All of a sudden I was blocked from his Instagram and his Facebook pages. That was it. We never really spoke again. I was so hurt and didn't want to hear any more lies from her. Looking back, there were a lot of warning signs, but I couldn't see them back then. It was just 2 weeks until my lease for the condo in Bangkok was up, so I decided to leave for Pattaya again. I decided to just keep doing what I had done before, meet with girls for fun and nothing else. Pattaya was just as much fun as it had been, but I was still feeling hurt from what Kanda had done, although it didn't stop me having a great time. This was sometime into the middle of January and I kept to my routine with visits to the gym, the pool and the beach while still partying in the evenings. Then in April I met Wana. According to Wana, she was a retired bar girl. She had worked in a famous go-go bar for 5 years from the age of 18 and she had saved a lot of money and spent it on a farm for her family in Isan. Wana told me that they all make a good living from the farm and that she was only in Pattaya visiting friends. As said, I was naive back then and I believed her. I had promised myself not to get seriously involved with a Thai girl ever again because of Kanda, but it was impossible. Wana ticked all the boxes. Really, I had never in my life had so much fun with a girl doing regular everyday things. I was on cloud 9. Wana liked to do everything I like to do. Play video games, watch movies, tan by the beach and the pool, go for walks, etc, etc. It was perfect. Wana was actually really smart too. This will sound smug, but I had never been with a girl that I recognised to be smarter than me, but Wana was. I had told Wana about my experience with Kanda and how she had deceived me and that she was engaged to be married with another guy living in Japan. Wana appeared shocked and agreed that it was a horrible thing to do and couldn't understand how she could have done that to me. Wana stayed with me, but sometimes she went back to her village in Isan for a short visit. When Wana was in Isan, she texted me regularly. We also talked on the phone, and I mean literally all the time. My next visa run was coming up, so I was planning a trip to Bali. Wana had never been there, but she wanted to go, so we planned it together as a longer holiday. I booked the tickets, made an itinerary, and booked hotels. Life was great. Me and Wana talked about getting a bigger condo together as mine was a bit small. We viewed some online and was planning to go on some viewings. Wana then invited me to visit her village in Isan to meet her family. I of course accepted, and I was very happy as I saw this as another sign that this was a real deal. It was now August and I was going up to the north of Thailand. We had planned a week there, splitting the time between one of the major cities in Isan called Khon Kaen and her hometown. I had a good time. It was interesting to see the life there and to meet her family. Wana's family spoke zero English, but we were friendly. They have a modern house that had not long been built, and during the days they were all working on the farm. The week soon came to an end and we were going back to Pattaya. The next day we had scheduled a viewing of a condo. Wana then said she couldn't go with me. She needed to stay and help her family for a few days. I thought nothing of this and said I would video call her when I was at the viewing of the apartment so that she could also see it. I flew back to Pattaya alone. We talked on a video call for most of the night until 4 a.m. in the morning. Wana posted something very cryptic on her Facebook page, something in Thai with a lot of black hearts. I tried to translate it. It was something like, why can't the heart ever get what it wants? I know Thai to English translations are often wrong, so I didn't know what to make of it. When I asked Wana about it, she said it was nothing and deleted it. She then called me again and she was crying and couldn't stop. I couldn't get an answer from her. What was going on? And eventually she just said she needed to sleep. I was worried, but we hung up and I went to sleep as well. The next day I couldn't reach her. She didn't reply to my texts and her phone was off. This was worrying me a bit, but I had the meeting with the real estate agent to view the condo. I texted and called Wana again, but it was the same as before. No reply, nothing. Phone was off, no replies, no messages delivered. Then a few hours later, the text got delivered. Wana replied in a weird way, like short messages. She said she wasn't feeling well and had been sleeping for most of the day. I thought, okay, maybe she is sick. However, I didn't really know what to think and I was getting nervous. The day continued, but Wana wasn't really replying to any of my text messages that I sent her. She also did not pick up any of my calls. Then finally, late at night, she called me. She said that she had a bad signal and something was wrong with the internet in her village because of the bad weather. She didn't want to talk too much because she was still feeling sick, she said. Wana sent me some super blurry photos of something she claimed was her farm. It was the same thing on the following day and the next day. Now I was starting to see a pattern and I was starting to think that she was lying to me. I kept pressuring her, asking all sorts of questions about why she was acting like this, why she couldn't talk longer on her video, and then all of a sudden she gave in. She told me everything. She was in Singapore with her sponsor, with one of her sponsors actually. She had two. Once she opened up, it all came out, absolutely everything. How much money they sent her, how long she had been with them, how often they met. She also told me that her family didn't really make enough money from the farm, but they were living off the sponsor's money. I was again shocked. Even though I had started to fear and suspect that something was seriously wrong, this was very worse. I couldn't believe that it was happening again. Exactly the same thing, overseas boyfriend, sponsor, whatever. After what I had told Wana about Candace, she then did the exact same thing. I just couldn't believe it. How could she? She was crying. She said that she loved me so much and that she had never felt anything like this before. I was both devastated and very angry. How could she do all of this? How could she agree to book a trip to Bali, invite me to her family, plan to move in together for real when she knew nothing of this was ever going to happen? How could she play with me like this? She said she was so sorry. She knew that everything she had done was wrong and that it was selfish on her part. But she went on to explain that she couldn't help herself because she loved every moment with me and wanted to enjoy it for as long as it could possibly last. I still couldn't understand it. She had never asked for any money. She said she had her own and she could pay for drinks or dinners and things like that. I wasn't thinking that if she just had been honest, I'm sure we could have worked something out. But she never did. I was crushed. I was really hurting. This will sound weird, but I have gone through a divorce and that didn't hurt as much as this did. I can't describe it in any better way than to say that my heart was physically hurting. I had chest pains. Wana kept sending me messages about being sorry, this and that and whatnot. I could not accept it. I told her on numerous occasions to stop sending me messages to me because it was over. I said even worse things to her that I'm not proud of, but still she kept texting me the same things. I went to Bali by myself. Wana kept texting me, but eventually it started to get easier as I was in Bali. I met up with other girls and I started to live again. Me and Wana hooked up a few times after that, just some one night stuff. Every time she saw me without a girl in Pattaya, she would come up to me and asked if she could go with me. I'm not sure why, but I always said yes to this. To this day, I still think of her on a regular basis, but we don't have any contact at this point. I left Thailand when this pandemic got really bad and I haven't heard from her since. I guess that's all for the better. Yeah, I've come across this lots of times, guys. What it is, you'll get a very, very pretty girl. She works in a bar, maybe casually, and she'll meet a guy like this. He obviously wasn't an old guy, maybe 35, 40 at the time, and he's quite fit, and they do click, they get on together. And what's going on in the girl's mind, she's kind of thinking, I really like this guy, and if I play my cards right, he might take me back, you know, if he falls in love with me. I had a Thai girl tell me years ago, working in one of my, a friend of mine had a bar, and I used to go to his bar just to drink. If you haven't been to this channel before, I'm married I'm to a Korean lady, so I used to go out and drink, but I didn't take girls from the bars. And I had a Thai girl work in a bar. She told me many years ago, she said, look, if we can make these guys fall in love with us, it's much easier to make money from them. So this is slightly different. So what's obviously happened in this case, and I have seen this several times before, this girl has obviously she's fallen for this guy, but the problem is she's hoping for the best. But the problem is the girls are practical. They support their families. They can't suddenly stop sending them money, so they kind of hide it from this. She's hiding it from this guy, hoping it'd turn out for the best. It got to a point where she knew she had to go to Singapore and, you know, not lose her main income, as it were. And quite a sad story from both sides. The guy was obviously naive on that trip. But, you know, guys, if you go to Thailand for the first time, keep all these stories in mind because they are all true stories and you never know. So let's jump straight into the second story. I've watched a few of your shows and found them very funny and interesting, and yes, I have subscribed. It was a while ago in the 1990s when I headed a team of military guys to work in Thailand for a few weeks. After our initial meetings and planning sessions, the guys wanted to go downtown. I went along wanting to be sure my guys didn't get arrested. I had not been to Thailand before, but one of the guys had been to Bangkok on R&R from Vietnam years earlier. With his guidance, off we go. His confidence with the area led me to believe he had spent a lot more time in Bangkok than he let on. I was amazed at the candy store atmosphere on the streets and really wanted to go into one of the many bars. We picked a bar and my friend led the way. We entered and decided to sit at the bar with a dance floor behind us. Before my backside was firm in the seat, a bar girl came and put her hand on my leg. Later, my friend suggested she might have been trying to lift my wallet, but I doubt it. I told the girl I was just there for a drink and didn't need any company. She huffed off. My buddy said, boss, you're going to have a girlfriend on you or the others won't leave you alone. Pick one, buy her drinks and the others will stay away. I looked around and the entire team was already coupled up. I guess my buddy was right, but I had just started a relationship in the States and didn't want to do anything to jeopardize that. I looked around and saw a very pretty girl smiling at me and I smiled back and she came over. We moved to a booth and talked. As the night progressed, the guys were all having fun and my little friend seemed to be happy with the drinks I bought her. A number of other girls approached and after a word from my new friend, off they went. Anything I wanted, she made it appear. I realised I probably paid a premium for her drinks, but she was nice company and I could keep an eye on my team and the girls dancing. My new friend had to take her turn dancing. She was even prettier than I suspected. Later, a doorman walked by and he was wearing a t-shirt for an international run. A friend of mine was entered but had to drop out because she was injured in a recent car accident. I thought it would be great if I could get my friend one of these t-shirts. I approached the doorman who spoke really good English and asked if he knew where I could get one of the t-shirts for my friend. He asked for my address and said he'd send me one. Nowadays, I'd be weary of giving out my personal information like that, but back then I was young and excited about getting a shirt. I gave the doorman my card with my home address on it. When I returned to our booth, I noticed my new friend had refreshed our drinks and had propped herself up on her leg and watched my interaction with the doorman. A number of the guys headed out, a few with their new girlfriends. So I told my new friend I needed to go. She asked me to take her with me. She explained the bar fine rule and said if we left together, she could stay with me. Now, when I said she was pretty, I was understating. She was actually beautiful, and I knew if I went out, I'd have problems at home. So I told her I was going to meet some other guys at another bar and I'd be back soon. She didn't look happy, but she agreed, and I went back to my hotel and got a good night's sleep. For the next 4 days, we were going to be doing nothing but work. 4 days later, our job done, we headed back to the bar. Actually, I was really looking forward to seeing my little bar girlfriend again. I half expected that she would be entertaining another guy when I got there, but no. As soon as we walked in, she was at my side and had my arm in hers. I saw my buddy, who knew his way around Bangkok, sitting alone in a booth. I started over to his booth. My Thai friend said that we should go to another booth and was rather firm that we would not go to his booth. I was confused. Then I seen a Thai girl come out from the bathroom and sit down with him. Then I understood. My friend found us a booth and we repeated the first night with me buying her drinks and she making sure I had everything I wanted. Well, I had an early morning flight and started to leave, and she again asked if I'd pay her the bar fine and she could come with me. I made up another story about me meeting other guys in another bar and she frowned but agreed. She asked if she could come to my hotel later. I said sure and told her who to ask for, but not me. Also knowing the hotel would not allow a young single woman entry into the hotel if she wasn't checked in. Trip over back to the States and my girlfriend. Well, as predicted, I did have something good, and then within weeks we were engaged and I told her to move into my condo. One day when we came home from work, I checked the mail. There was a letter from Thailand. I opened it and I saw it was from my little friend. The letter wasn't that long, but it went something like she liked me, we had fun, she loved me and wanted to come to me in the States. I looked at my girlfriend and she just stood there with her mouth wide open. I turned the letter over and on the back, in brackets, which was towards my girlfriend, she had written in big letters, I love you. I knew I had some explaining to do, but then it got worse. The envelope tipped and she had enclosed 2 photos. Both were fully clothed and tasteful. One a nice facial picture, then another with her sitting on a mattress in what I assume was her sleeping area. After a long, truthful explanation that she was just a girl I bought drinks for to keep other girls away, my fiancée said she understood, took the letters and pictured and ripped them up. I also guess it didn't hurt that I brought her a sapphire ring in Bangkok. Well, that covers my Bangkok experience. Luckily, you don't report on South America. My team give me a bachelor party on a beach in Rio, but that's another story. And it took a lot more explaining than I have time for. I forgot to mention that I never gave my little bar girlfriend my home address. I also never received the t-shirt from the doorman, and I assume my little friend watching me hand my card to the doorman had somehow convinced him to give it to her. The party street we visited was Pat Pong. I had a similar experience with something like this once. It was years ago. I was staying, I think I've mentioned in this stream before, I had a part-time business where I used to buy jewellery gift wrapping displays and things from Sampeng, that's Chinatown, and I'd go every couple of months and then I'd sell it on eBay, and then the bottom just dropped out of the market because it was sold directly from China. So that's why I used to go out there on my own, and my wife was here in the UK. And sometimes friends had come over to see me. I'd go out and meet them for dinner. But there was one particular occasion, a guy who was a good friend of mine who lived in Bangkok. He had a regular Thai girl, and he came to visit me in my hotel room. And when he came, he turned up with his Thai girlfriend. And you know what they're like, some of these girls. She just picked up my hairbrush, brushed her hair, put it back down, thought nothing of it, and neither did I. Well, of course, I packed on to come back to the UK, put the hairbrush in the suitcase, didn't think anything of it. And when I got back, I was unpacking. My wife was helping me. She picked up the hairdress, the brush, and of course there's this very long dark hair, and of course all hell broke loose. It took some explaining to do. I don't think my wife truly believed my story, which was actually true. I think it was 50-50 and she gave me the benefit of the doubt. So it does happen. So I'm going to go straight into our third story now, and I believe this one is very, very short, but the guy's taken the trouble to write it, and it's quite a story that can happen to you. Okay. Hi Peter, my name is Robin. I love your vlogs. I wonder if your viewers would be interested in my tale. You may need to change some words to suit YouTube's policies. This happened a few years ago when I was a newbie. It was my first night in Thailand and I was tired because of the long haul flight. I was leaving Walking Street on the beach roadside and on my own. I was jumping on a BART bus. Quick note, when is a BART bus not a BART bus? When you get on late next to Walking Street, then it becomes a taxi and overcharges by 100 baht. If you walk a few yards along Beach Road, you can get a taxi 100 baht cheaper. Anyway, back to my story. A girl grabbed my hand and jumped on with me. When I looked at her, I realised she was a ladyboy. I don't have any problems with ladyboys, but they don't float my boat, if you know what I mean. So I said, no ladyboy for me, thank you. She said, it's okay, I got same like lady. I said, I don't care what you've got, leave me alone and get off. She refused. I wasn't about to argue in the street surrounded by all her ladyboy friends, so I waited till we got to my hotel, paid the driver and got off. She said, you give me 1,000 baht. I said, no chance. Then she took off a shoe and tried to hit me round the head with it, but I managed to block the shoe with my arm. Then she threw her shoe at me. I picked the shoe up and I threw it over a wall into the street. She swore at me and stormed off. I went to bed. Hope this was of interest to you. That's got to be the shortest story I've ever read out on the channel, but it's quite interesting. Yeah, I mean, those lady boys, nothing against them as well, but they can be vicious. If you upset one, then you're dealing with a pack, you know, and they always, you know, high heels, stiletto shoes, they take them off and bury them in the top of your head. I've seen that a few times as well. Okay. So if you remember at the beginning of this video, I said the last story, I found it quite humorous towards the end. I'll explain why, because I don't want to give the game away. It's actually a serious story, but like I say, I'll let you know at the end why I thought it was quite funny. I'm sure you will as well. Okay, so I'd like to share my story with you all. My first trip to Thailand was in February 2014 and happened purely by chance. I had just started a job for a major airline in Southeast Asia. I'll let you all guess which one. In January 2014, I found out I was going over for training at base. The country is less than 2 hours away from Bangkok. Only by chance, I mentioned this to a friend who told me he was going to be in Thailand at the same time and that I should join him once my training had finished. I agreed as I had never been to Thailand before. So the day had come, training finished, and I was on my way to Bangkok. My friend came to meet me at the airport and we went straight to the hotel to drop off my bags. My friend was very Thailand experienced, and although I was pretty well travelled, I was a little taken back as we approached the Sukhumvit area where our hotel was. The noise, the people, the general chaos got me worried. I was only going to be with my friend for 2 days. He was then heading to Phuket and I was to stay in Bangkok on my own for a further 2 nights before heading back to the UK. I checked in the hotel, put my bags down, had a shower and we were off into town. At around 11 p.m. we made our way to Cowboy. Please bear in mind my weight was around 155 kg, 24 stone. I was far from a handsome man. Walking along Cowboy, I felt like a king with all the girls calling out to me, handsome man, handsome man. My friend quickly told me not to think about it too much as everyone is a handsome man here as long as your wallet is full. The first beer bar we went to was at the end of Cowboy at the opposite end of Susie Wong Go-Go Bar. The drinks started flowing and we never left the bar. We had a couple of girls join us and from memory we had a very good evening. No funny business, just a good time and many laughs. At the end of the night, the girl I was drinking with asked if she could come back with me for drinks. I was very drunk and asked my friend what she was talking about. My friend advised me to just tell her I would come back tomorrow, which is what I did. The next day was a blur for most of the day. In the evening, we ended up in Soy Cowboy again. This time we went to a go-go bar, which blew my mind away as I had never seen anything like this before. Girls dancing in bikinis, beautiful girls walking around. I was in heaven. This is where I met Chaya, the name spelled C-H-A-I. She wasn't a dancer, she was serving drinks in the bar. She sat with me, I got her a drink and we talked a lot. She was really funny and she spoke very good English. Fast forward to a couple of hours later, my friend bar fined a girl and left. I continued to drink with Chia for a little longer, then decided to leave. Chaya asked if she could come back with me, but maybe because I was very tired or not confident due to my looks, I said no, but that I'd come back to see her the next day. The next day, my friend was off to Phuket. Just before getting in his taxi from the hotel, he grabbed me by the arm and said, "Don't do anything stupid like get married, but have lots of fun. Also, do not give them your phone number." I spent the day walking around Bangkok, shopping and eating. In the evening, as promised, I went to see Chaya. Not even 30 minutes into the evening, she asked me if I would bar fine her so that she could show me around Bangkok. I agreed. She was nice company and it would be better than being alone. We went for food and a few bars. That night, she came back to my room for more drinks and we had a good night. She asked me for my number so we could meet again. I did not give it to her and made some lame excuse as to why not. She said I'd come to her bar. I said I'd come to her bar again to see her again. Kicking myself for not actually exploring a little more, I was true to my word and went to meet her that night. It was pretty much a repeat from the previous night. My flight was quite early, so I couldn't lay in bed too long. Once again, Cha asked for my number, but I declined and told her the next time I come to Thailand, I would come to see her again. Fast forward to April 2015, I'd lost 50 kilos and had got myself a girlfriend in the UK. In April, I found out she wasn't the faithful type, so we broke up. Not wanting to be overly sad, I thought I'll book myself a flight to Thailand once again. It was only a quick 5-day trip to drink and have fun. The first night I went back to the same bar to get Chaya. She wasn't there, so I bar fined another girl. I went back to the same bar on my second night for the same girl, but she wasn't there, but Chaya was. Apparently she had gone back to her village, but was now back. I bar fined Chaya 4 nights in a row and we had a really good time together, and this time I gave her my number. We kept in touch through the Line app as usual. Working for a big airline, luckily I have the privilege of free travel. I took full advantage of this. 4 weeks later I was in Bangkok again to visit Chaya. We became a couple on that trip. I started travelling to Bangkok every 2 months to see her. We would talk every night. She was still at the bar, although she said she was not going out with customers. On my first trip, Chaya asked me if I wanted to visit her village in Isan. I agreed and off to Royet we went. I met the family. They were all nice and welcoming. The whole time I was there, they never asked me for a penny. I thought to myself, where do the horror stories come from? Or am I lucky to have found that one good Thai bar girl? 2 years in and Chaya's family asked me if I could support her. I said the best I could do was help by paying her for her room, which was around 4,500 baht. That's about 110, 120 pounds or 140 US dollars, something like that. Bear in mind that every trip I was giving her at least 15,000 to 20,000 baht. Around a year later, one of Chai's family members came to stay with her. This family member was a man. She said he was a cousin who could not afford his own room due to him working in 7-Eleven and his salary was very, very low. Our relationship was going well, although she was incredibly jealous, which was starting to get to me. I've always been faithful, even in a long distance relationship, as I would not want to waste anybody's time. I could not smile at another woman, even when talking to cashiers at a 7-Eleven. It would set her off, even if I gave the cashier a friendly smile. Back home, if I was talking quietly while at work and she would hear a woman talking in the background, she would ask me, "Who's that?" and if I was sleeping with her. I would reply, "I'm at work and she is a colleague." Chaya would get angry but then apologise. For a further 3 years we carried on. I would visit Bangkok, we would go off to Phuket, Koh Samui, Chiang Mai or another location, then we would return to her village. The pandemic hit hard in January and I was unable to go to Thailand. My last trip was in October 2019. In October of 2020, I had a major heart attack at 38 years of age and even needed triple bypass surgery. Even when I was in the hospital at death's door, Chaya kept asking me if I was having relations with the nurses and other patients as if I was some kind of stud with a relentless appetite for lovemaking. I now live on my own. After recovering from heart surgery, I was pretty much useless for the first month and needed help for everything. Friends and private nurses helped me out. The questions from Chaya yet again were always the same. It was really getting to me now. Part of the recovery is that you have to be calm and really look after your heart. Chaya did not understand this. Another 3 weeks and after yet being asked again if I was sleeping with the nurses, I decided to call it a day. I really liked Chaya, but I could not see a future in any country really. I really love Thailand and cannot wait to be able to visit again. If I do decide to get myself some entertainment, however, there will not be any more numbers exchanged. I have been to Thailand 26 times in 5 years, and yet there is so much more to see and many more people to meet. So I think you guys all know by now why I thought it was quite humorous. It was when he kept explaining about her being very, very jealous and asking if he was sleeping with the nurses. And you know, the bar girls are like that. They are very, very jealous. I've seen it with friends, and it's just something that happens. All right, guys, thanks for joining me for these 4 stories. They were good, weren't they, this week? No live stream next Friday, as I did it last night, so it'll be the following Friday. That's for about 2 hours, 9 p.m. Friday night. We always have a good time. Come along and join in the chat, and I'll see you there. And of course, there'll be another set of stories coming up next Saturday. And just to mix it up a little bit, I've got some other videos planned. You know, I did that newbie series not long ago. I've got some different bits and pieces coming up, but I don't want to let the cat out the bag just yet. You'll have to wait for them, but they'll be mixed in with the stories and they're coming on the channel soon. Thanks a lot, guys.